bitchin' UV light I've been using. Pretty bitchin'. Actually helps. It helps with oxidation. I guess first of all, how is this sound? Do you have anything on the sound or what? Somebody's putting a YouTube link. What's that YouTube link? Oh, I got the poor connection. Poor connection of death. Maybe can we like mount this phone to a drill press or something? Do you have any audio or what? How's the connection? How's the audio? Connection's probably shit. What about audio? You got any audio? I mean, I got a Wi-Fi hotspot right here. I don't know what else I can do. I'll try to elevate it. Maybe that'll help. Let's see if you get anything out of that. Can you hear me if I talk like that? How is the audio? That's it clipped to my vest here. Is that good or what? Man. I normally do this, okay, audio's good. I normally do this on my other desk, but it's completely covered in terrible experiment residuals, like what's left over. It's terrible. It's like if I got raided right now, they think it was like some kind of clandestine lab or something, but it's really just a bunch of lazy experiments that didn't get cleaned up, and it's completely consuming the other desk. So I'm on this one. Okay, the audio is good. Okay, all right. So we're gonna get started here. I gotta check on a couple things. I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna check on a couple things and grab a couple more things, and then we'll be ready to go. Hmm. Okay. Oh man, it's getting precarious over here. I I think I figured out why they don't do science on live stream. I figured out why they don't do science on live stream. Just now, with all these fucking wires everywhere. Holy shit, what a nightmare. I just have to have a UV light. What's that? Something. Okay. I think we're good. I just need some fucking eyes, some chemical eyes. Hang on. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Hang on. Let me get you some ambience. This is a. There we go. There we go. It's just you and me now. We're the ASMR energetics live stream. Can you not sleep? I'm sorry about that. Maybe the problem is you need to evacuate your bowels. I'm wearing Crocs. It's too late. It's already Crocs. Crocs are on there. Can you not sleep? I'm sorry about that. Let me see if old Doug can help you with some shorts rocking. We're gonna rock your shorts with some high explosive energetics here. I can't sleep. I never sleep. You know that? I am completely empathetic with you and your sleeping problem on Twitch. I know how that feels. Okay. One thing you need to be aware of: we are making a high explosive today. So if you're not familiar with this stuff or comfortable with it, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. I'm in a shithouse garage that I shoot bullets through the fucking wall if I want. You may or may not have that situation. If you don't have that, you may want to, if you were going to do it, which I would suggest that you don't if you're not comfortable. But if you were comfortable and wanted to do it, I would recommend doing it outside. As most experiments. A lot of, not all, but some, there's a good number of energetics that use highly toxic stuff. It can be anything from like cyanide up to azides, shit that's highly toxic. You don't want to be breathing it, getting it in your eyes. You don't want to be getting it on your, spilling it all over the place so it's residual. All of that stuff is bad, okay? Oh, shit, I forgot the drill press key. Hang on. We got one more thing here. That being said, what we are making today. That being said, what we are making today is probably the most OTC. Probably the most over-the-counter high explosive that you can make. I've looked at a lot of them. There's really nothing that compares to this in terms of the alignment between how much energy it has, how simple it is to make, and how universal the precursors are. These precursors are essentially unbannable. We're going to be doing. I guess we should talk about what we're going to make. Here, can I take this fucking mic off? Is that okay? Can you still hear me like that? Without a mic? Hello, sound check. Sound check. Sound check. What you got? It's faint. Is the mic better? Okay, you can hear well without a mic. Okay, good deal. Good deal. Somebody got me this mic last time. I never used it. It sounds okay now, I guess. All right. There's no way that I could control the spaghetti hands. If spaghetti hands are going to happen, they're just going to happen. All right. Let's get down to brass tacks here on the ASMR. You're trying to fucking get to sleep. You can't get to sleep. You need to clear your bowels. We need something that's going to release high energy delivery immediately. Well, I've got just a compound for you, because what we are making is a trinitroso derivative of RDX. It is one of the most simple to make high explosives out there. It has a couple different names. One of them would be TM. Let's see what they call it. TMTN, which is kind of an antiquated name. I don't really think that's a very good name either. The current name for it is TNX. That'd be like tits and axe, right? TNX. So this explosive, I guess we should talk about what it is first. If you're not familiar with RDX, RDX is an explosive that got developed in secret in World War II. It was dramatically more high energy than pretty much anything else. In fact, RDX is in a special place because it has pretty much remained on top for conventional, high-powered explosives. There's really nothing that's dethroned it. There are some more complex compounds that you can make. There are some compounds that are easy to make, that are hot, that are extremely energetic, but just don't have the combinations of properties of RDX are just they're basically unmatched. One of the big problems with RDX is that it is highly sensitive comparatively to other explosives. I wouldn't describe it as highly sensitive. I would describe it as highly sensitive compared to insensitive explosives. It's insensitive compared to like super touchy shit. But, for somebody that's not familiar with explosives, like, you got to be kind of careful with it. You could, if it was on the floor and you drop something heavy on it, it'll detonate. Pure RDX. I have seen in the Iraq theater, there was a house that was doing nothing but churning out RDX all day, and it was in a housing complex with other people connected to it. I'm not sure how much detonated, but they were about 7 miles away from me. They had an accidental detonation on site while they were making RDX. and it knocked dust off my wall where I was laying down. And I was about 7 miles away. We got out there, and it's tough to say exactly what the quantity was, but it was probably somewhere in the range from like, I don't know, 20 pounds to 50 pounds or something like that. It turned the entire building into a dollhouse, with like an open facade. Like the entire front of it was open. Really changed the lives of a bunch of people that were there. So, like innocent people, that were caught up in it. But especially with that being said, going into energetics, you want to the trick to energetics is that you want to assume that you're going to have a detonation at any time. So as soon as a compound is detonatable, you should just assume that something's going to go wrong. It's going to detonate. And if you just think about it and use your head, you can come up with all kinds of ways to make it less lethal if you do have a detonation. Other shit to think about: you need earplugs. So if you're making energetics, you've got to wear earplugs unless you're making like microgram quantities. Because if you do have a detonation, you're gonna be deaf for the rest of your life because it's gonna destroy your ears. So you wanna throw in some plugs when you're making energetics, right? Same thing goes for like black powder or smokeless powder. Like really, if you're like reloading any kind of quantity of black powder and shit like that, you should be wearing earplugs in case you have like a crazy fluke detonation. I know that reloaders don't do that. If you're not separating your bulk powder and shit from your reloading table, especially like nitrocellulose is actually fairly sensitive, it is stabilized, so it's not like, it's not just gonna like have fumes igniting and shit. But if you surpass the threshold of activation energy, that motherfucker will detonate. Just a thought. So TNX, we are making TNX. What I told you about was RDX. RDX is a mainstay explosive. It is the primary explosive since TNT. Poor choice of words. It's not a primary explosive. It's the primary use explosive. It's a secondary explosive. It's not a primary explosive. It's a bulk explosive. It has interesting characteristics in that as a powder, it's extremely sensitive. So when it's raw, it's extremely sensitive. You can desensitize it with additives. You can change the blast profile with additives. You can make it thermobaric. You can make it a cutting type explosive that cuts steel. You can make it a blast effect type of explosive by lowering the oxygen balance. You can do a lot with it. Some of the things that you cannot do with RDX, you cannot melt it. So when it melts, its phase change is higher than its decomp temp. So you can go into a detonation. Some explosives, like a big deal about explosives is packing them in, right? Some explosives like TNT, the reason that TNT was so huge, besides coming from oil stock, they make TNT out of oil, and there's plenty of that. There was plenty of that around. TNT is melt castable. It's one of the few explosives that's melt castable. There's really not a whole lot. The other ones that like you have like some unusual ones like ETN. Some of your nitrate esters are melt castable, where you can actually you can get to the melting point without detonating it. When you do melt casting, your density increases because you're packing it in there by changing the you're doing a phase change with a structure change. It typically comes also with something it becomes more sensitive when you melt cast, right? But what you can do with melt cast is something like somebody says here, Comp B. So what Comp B is, you've probably heard of Comp B. Comp B would be like a standard load that they use in hand grenades and shit like that. It's very, it's just like your basic bitch, good explosive. It's more powerful. TNT isn't really is kind of antiquated alone. They used to use TNT by itself. It's really not used anymore because the volume of it that has to be used for different kinds of operations is pretty high compared to higher performance explosives, and so your quantity just increases dramatically. To take down a tree with like an external abattis charge requires like 10 pounds of TNT versus 1 pound of something else. So it's kind of an exponential factor beyond even what they call the relative explosive factor in terms of practical effect. It's almost like exponential, And that's why TNT is typically used in an admix. And TNT can be melted down and mixed with RDX, which is a powder that cannot be melted. But the TNT can be melted at low temperature, below the detonation temp of RDX, and then they can be mixed. There's still some issues with that in terms of getting it the same every time and things like that, and separation and shit, and homogeneous mixing. But just understand that melt cast stuff is it really increases your density, and you can fill cavities with it. So if you have ordnance, you can just pour it in there and then let it harden, let it cool and harden, and it entirely fills all the voids. Especially if you use something vibratory on it to knock air bubbles out, or you're gonna fill all the fucking voids, and you're gonna have a super high speed detonation effect. It's going to be very effective. Okay. So RDX is not melt castable. It is a high explosive powder. The detonation rate of it, I mean, you hear all kinds of figures from 8,400 meters per second, all the way up to I've read 8,000, 700 in some places. It's going to lie somewhere in between there, and there's some different forms of it. What we're making today is not RDX. What we were making is TNX. Where TNX came from is that when they were producing RDX, they were studying. Initially, what happened was that they tried a nitrous acid instead of nitric, which would have made RDX, and they came up with the TNX, and then it was more like an academic thing, and they just held it around and put it away, and they weren't thinking anything about it. They calculated the detonation with detonation calculations, like theoretical, decided it wasn't going to be as powerful as RDX, and so there was no reason to even explore it because it wasn't as powerful. That's what they thought. Turns out it's actually, in terms of performance power, it's about 93%. So you were like almost there to RDX. It's very close. It's definitely worth it. It has some really interesting features. After they made this TNX for just cataloging it, they came back to a sample that they found, and it was something like 6 years later, I believe. And they looked it up, dusted off, and they figured out this stuff that kept remarkably well. So it didn't have any kind of degradation in standard room conditions, like room temperature, 40% humidity, whatever. They figured out it was extremely stable. So this is actually like one of the best kept explosives that's relatively little known, and it has some other properties that are crazy. Aside from noting that it had remarkable stability and storage, aside from that, there really wasn't much done with it. Recently, with like the remediation of hazardous waste and shit involved in high explosive manufacturing, the government has funded studies to study like what happens naturally to high explosives when they sit around like out in the like in water, in soil, things like that, right? For like environmental concern stuff, right? They're doing like environmental studies. So what they do in that is, the explosive will break down and reduce, and the natural reduction of an explosive, the step down is what we're making. So they produced it in order to discover like its information about the remediation of explosive contamination in soil and shit. From doing that, then you had some additional tests like through the 80s and now, where what they figured out was that you can actually desensitize explosives by changing out their NO3s, their NO3 groups and NO2 groups for, a nitride group, an NO2 group, which is what we're doing, or an NO. Sorry, you're using a nitride. You're gonna have NO on the molecule, and so that is what TNX is. Other than that, it's still a triazine, just like RDX. The core of it is the same. It has a slightly it's the same nitrogen content. I believe. I don't have a fucking model of it. I had to look at a model. I haven't actually. Probably should have done more work. This isn't the final one. This is just the ASMR live stream. Okay, we're just dipping our toes. Okay, we're just getting wacky. Some people are out there right now. They're getting trashed. Right? They're finger banging hookers and all that stuff getting trashed. Here we don't do that. Okay, we're getting trashed, finger banging hookers, and making high explosives in the lab. Okay, it's a different order here. So anyway, the TNX is there are some things that you should know about it. Number one, it's extremely insensitive. So to shock stimulation. So your TNX is about it's like approximates TNT in terms of insensitivity, and TNT is extremely insensitive. You can detonate it. You can detonate it if you whack on it too hard. So this isn't like TAT B or something where it's like crazy, otherworldly insensitive, where you can just seriously fucking abuse the explosive and it's not going to detonate. You can get it to detonate, but you'd have to really crack it. Like you'd have to be doing some serious work on it to blow it up. Explosives blow up typically by heat and pressure in combination, and then your third variable would be your time, like your impulse time. Okay. So TNX is it's from hexamine. Hexamine is a fairly high nitrogen compound from ammonia and formaldehyde. So when ammonia and what formaldehyde is from methanol. So methanol becomes formaldehyde when it's heated in the gas phase with you get it into the gas phase and then you pass it over like a red hot piece of copper and you get a catalytic conversion to formaldehyde. So and the methanol can be derived from anything like guard clippings. I mean, you can, if you have enough of any biomass, you can make methanol. That's kind of a in-depth process a little bit. Like it takes some it's not something that you just whip up in a milk jug or something, but you can set up and make methanol out of like trees and shrubs and all that shit and do it in your backyard. Ammonia can be taken off of anything that contains it. Like urea is a really good source. Urea has a lot of ammonia in it. So anyway, when those two things combine, that's where you get, in a reaction, that's where you get hexamine, or hexamethylene tetramine. Hexamine, if you nitrate it with a nitric acid, or like a nitrate salt with sulfuric acid or something, then you'll get RDX. When you do this method, when you make this is known as Like this is approximately the Bachman, what they call the Bachman method. So Bachman was like the original scientist that came up with this method for. It's like the big mass production method is the Bachman. That's what everybody does. The Bachman method produces residual HMX in your final product, so it's contamination. HMX is more sensitive and more powerful than RDX. So HMX, you're at like, I don't know what HMX is, like 9.4, like 9,400 meters per second or something. Whereas like RDX is more like 8,600. HMX is also a couple of joules impact more sensitive. So like a factor of, like if RDX is a factor of, I don't know. They're pretty close, like a factor of 8 to a factor of 6 or something like that. But anyways, it will change the characteristic of your explosive, and it is a contaminant, you know. So they deal with it in the Bachman process because they say it's not a big deal, and they get by. But you know, it's not exact, right? This method, motherfucking mosquito. Here, I'm gonna turn on another light so we can get some mosquitoes out here. This method produces it produces a nitroso derivative of RDX that then can be oxidized into actual RDX, and you skip any HMX, so you get like 99.99% pure RDX by this method. So this is like the technical mid step for making absolutely pure, you know, absolute vodka RDX, you know, for making the Henny, it's not really the Henny, but for making high quality pure RDX, this is the method they use. And this is where, like, for the Lawrence Livermore laboratory method, which we're gonna we'll probably do, I don't know, we may do that one. That one works for sure. So we can try to do that. I don't know how long we're gonna have a video. I guess if the first one fucks up, then we'll go and we'll do the Livermore one so we can get a yield off of it. It's gonna be pretty quick. Like once we get going, it's pretty quick. This is also one of the fastest reactions. They say, I've read on some reports, they say that you have like a reaction time in 10 minutes, and then you're of like 90% of your product is out in like 10 minutes, and then you can be hours for the remaining 10%. So you can get a modest yield in like 10 minutes. We're probably gonna go a little slower that because we're gonna be talking, and we're trying a different method. We're gonna be doing a weird one where we react. We're going to be reacting, like as our solvent and our acid. We're gonna use acetic acid with citric acid. And so this should work in a smaller yield. The normal way this works in terms of the Livermore method is that you're gonna make 3 solutions. You make 3 solutions. You mix them together while it's cold with ice. I've got some ice down here. So that bucket right there, I got some ice cubes in there, right there, and I'm gonna put some salt in there. Now this is road salt. I'm gonna use magnesium chloride. You can use whatever for salt. This is just gonna make it a little bit cooler. I am gonna take some of the salt or some of this ice out, and I'm gonna blend it up so we have blended ice in this thing. Hopefully this blender's, this is like a cheap, like $13 blender. Which apparently is broken. That's okay, because I go through these a lot, and I've got another one. Unless this one's broken too. Got it. That must be a dead strip. There's just no fucking way. Apparently both these blenders are broken. I made a bunch of nanothermite in them, and I ran them kind of hard. I think I killed them. That's okay. That's all right. We're gonna improvise. Now, what I should mention is that, you know, all this stuff, all this shit that I'm using, damn it. So like the water and shit, this is all distilled, right? So I'm not using any water that you use. You don't want to use tap water because you can have chloramine or free chlorine in it, and you don't really want that. In some cases it would be fine. In some cases it wouldn't really do anything. In other cases it would affect your reaction. Okay, so I got a rubber mallet. I'm gonna beat this bag of ice. Blow it the fuck out. Okay. So my ice doesn't melt. Hang on, let me grab a can. Send up my eyes with salt. Other shit I got going on. This is a spittoon. This is a disgusting spittoon that I keep on the floor to spit in because I chew chewing tobacco all the time. Over here, this right here is a bucket of water. So this is called a dump bucket. So what a dump bucket is, straight up bucket, 5-gallon bucket or whatever size you need, that'll contain your reaction vessel. So we're using a mason jar, okay? You could use other stuff, right? Like if we end up doing the Livermore, we're gonna use a beaker. But we're gonna do this one with a mason jar. This is a bowl. This is a dog bowl that was like $2 from the Dollar General, I think. And then I've got some ice out of the fridge. My wife's gonna be pissed. I took all of her ice, and then I just put salt on there. So that's gonna cool our reaction vessel. And you really this right here is really not cold enough. Like we really need to be colder. But ideally the hottest that you want to get on this is 10C. Well, we've got all the shit. You know, there's a centrifuge up there. Okay, we've got all the shit. We're trying to do OTC here. Okay, we're making this shit OTC. All right. Okay, so we're gonna try that. We're gonna try this fucking. We are going to try this motherfucking. This method here. I'm gonna make one solution. This solution is going to have. Now, what's crazy about the citric acid method? They say at the end in the fucking article, they say that they figure out that the quantity of citric acid really doesn't even matter, and neither does anything else apparently. So this is like the most loosey goose experiment that you could ever do, the synthesis. We're gonna skip to we're gonna follow their guidelines, but just to be aware of that, you can actually apparently get pretty loose with this. So we're gonna do 47 grams of water. We might want to do this times 2. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Okay. Hang on, let me do this real quick. I'm adjusting these because I'm just realizing now that this thing's just like their paper is just a very small amount. I just read about it tonight, so we're just gonna times it. We're just gonna do times 2 because this is a very modest. You would definitely be fine. There's nothing that's gonna go out of control. Okay. Oh shit! Yeah, they use fucking distilled water. I'm gonna try some acetic. I'm gonna try some acetic acid. So this is cleaning vinegar. I'm gonna try that. Let's do that. They don't actually because we're trying to find this shit. We're testing. We're just fucking doing it live here. We've had high explosives detonate right next to us before. We can do it live. We've had explosives detonate right next to us before. We like dying, okay? No big deal. Okay. Hexamine. So if you're following the patent, or it's not a patent, it's just a scientific paper. If you're following that, you would do a solution, you're going to do a heavily stirred solution with 47 grams of water, 3.2 grams of hexamine. And then you're going to add 22.3 grams of citric acid. That would be if you were following theirs, which I'm not. Now I'll put some fish powder in the cup. Now we're going to do twice that. Because we are just testing this shit out. Oh, come on. There's no way. It's like a ball of hexamine. All right, that's good enough. Good enough for government work. Okay. Whew. Fish powder's in. Now this is one of those things. Here's another thing. We're gonna put away the hexamine. We're putting away part of the reason that it took so long to do this, to set up, I had to move a shitload of oxidizers out of the corner, right? So we're gonna put this over here. All right, now that's out of the way. Now for stirring, because we're doing this ghetto style, we're going to be using stainless steel wire. So this is stainless steel wire that I've wrapped into a loop. I don't know if you can see that. So this is just a loop. The other side of it's pinched together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape it. I'm going to shape it to the glass. So it's shaped to the glass now. Being bit in the face by mosquitoes. Which is fine. I like it. I don't even mind. Oh, I thought that was a lot closer. I guess not. I'm just going to be turning it. Or you could just turn the chuck the right way. That would do it too. So you could replace this drill press with a drill on a stick. Oh, got my glove in there. There we go. You could just duct tape. You could just duct tape a drill to a stick, man. You're cool. Now, you do want something supporting. You want something to support your reaction vessel. I'm using a clamp because that's just, I got that shit already, so it's easy, you know. I don't know. Can you even see that? I can't see what you're looking at. I got a stick. You can do whatever. You can put something on there to support it or whatever. I'm gonna submerge it in this ice bath by sticking some random shit underneath it and elevating it. Something that's just the right size. Which I don't have. How much harder we need to go? Alright, we'll try this. I got rubber dice. I'm gonna see if it works. It's right there, man. Oh, it's fucking cold. This would be way faster if I went into a fucking live stream. Alright. I'm like retarded. I'm like, no! I hold the glass! Fuck yeah, that's gonna stir it. Alright. That should be about right. I mean, it should be like 800 RPM. I can't remember what that's set to. That'll be an experimental variable. Let's see what happens. Okay. We have our solution of acetic acid. We're gonna make some citric acid now. We'll put this in there. Okay. Now, this is way less. It's way lower than what it looks like because of water, because of wire, stainless wire. It shoots it all the way the fuck up over there. Oh man, this is gonna be a lot. Can you even see that? Actually, I probably shouldn't have doubled it. Let's see if I can turn this RPM down. What are we at? We're third down. Oh, we're at 1500. Yeah, we probably should turn that down. It's going to be a little, we should get a shitload of foaming. How do I go down? No, that'll go up to 3200. We don't want that. Okay, 1500 it is. Okay. We got our hexamine, and we got our citric acid. We're about to add that in. We're gonna do citric acid first. The paper says it doesn't matter the order. We're gonna make it properly acidified. We're also gonna move a stack of bricks. Okay? This is my boom boom shield.